Hey, my name's Izzy, this is Rolling Virtual Cards, and I'm going to be talking about the Doctor Who set that came out, or I guess the Commander decks that came out, and some of the set cards that came out. I'm kind of confused exactly how it works. I think you can buy collector boosters of them that come with individual cards. Excuse me. And you can buy the Commander decks that came out. But I thought I'd go over each individual card, kind of talk off where they're coming. I'm going to be making a few of these videos this week, just talking about the individual colors, and then doing one with the multicolors and the colorless. But we got white here today. So let's start off, let's go, and we can zoom in here a bit, and talk about Adipose Offering. This is going to be 3 and a white for a 2/2 creature alien with the following effects. Emerge for 5 and a white, which means you may cast this spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the emerge cost reduced by the creature's mana value. So if you sacked a 5-drop, it would only cost 1 white. When Adipose Offering enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 white alien creature token. If Adipose Offering's emerge cost was paid, instead create X of those tokens, where X is a sacrifice creature's toughness. Okay, so this is actually really interesting. So it's a 4-drop, which is a pretty decent spot to be in the first place. 4 for a 2/2 isn't good. I don't like those numbers. I wouldn't run that in any deck, honestly, even in like a token doubling deck. To clarify, the only decks that these are full formats these are legal are Legacy, Vintage, Commander, and Oathbreaker. Legacy and Vintage cards are going to be hard pressed to get into here. They need to be really broken. Commander, most of these cards are going to find some play in some type of Commander deck. An Oathbreaker, it's another one-on-one Commander, kind of Commander-esque build, so some cards might see play in there. With Adipose Offspring, I think the big part here is its emerge. In an emerge deck, if you're playing a lot of tokens, like token generators, being able to sacrifice something with high toughness, like something with like 5 toughness, and getting 5 2/2s for possibly 1 white, you're gonna see that's not bad. That's a really good add-on. Plus, itself is an alien, so it will come in as a 2/2. So 4 for 2 2/2s I don't love. But like 1 white for like maybe it plus 3 other 2/2s, that'd be 4 2/2s. Saying 2/2 a lot. So I think that's kind of where everything kind of comes together, is that emerge ability. With that being said, I think you'll see this definitely in token decks. If you need something that really pushes it, doubling the tokens, so like if you get the emerge cost for 5, you're getting 5 of those tokens, you're going to get 10 instead if you have a doubler. That's pretty good. Aside from that, anything with high toughness, or a commander with high toughness specifically. If you're in a white colored deck with a commander and it has like 5, 6 toughness, or 5+ toughness, I would run this card. I would definitely suggest it. It would definitely push that notion of what exactly you're looking for in a win con, which this would be great. At 5 toughness, you're getting 6 2/2s onto the field. That's pretty strong. I like it in that regard. Astrid Peth is 1 and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature human. So this is going to be possible commander. When Astrid Peth enters the battlefield or attacks, you create a food token. Okay, so you have food tokens here. There's plenty of food commanders that this can go into. What else does it do? Brand New Sky. Whenever you sacrifice a clue or food, Astrid Peth explores. Exploring means you reveal the top card of your library. Put that card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, put a 1/1 counter on this creature, then put that card back, or put it into your graveyard. That's not bad. In any deck that's going to be making a lot of foods and a lot of food and a lot of clues, you're going to find this being a perfect fit in there. As a 2-drop, that's great. It already comes in with a way to try to draw into a land, or give you 1/1, or make it a 3/3 with the food it comes out with. So in a flicker deck, you'll see this a lot. A lot of use here, because you can flicker it repeatedly and get those food tokens. The downside with flickering it is you will lose those 1/1 counters. So I'm not a huge fan of that. So in food decks, possibly. In a token deck, yeah, I mean, it'll make a food. But I'd really keep this in mind for food and clue decks, or if you're running both of those. Just as a card there. If you want to build this as your commander, that's fine. White has so many cards that make food and make clues. This card can get huge. You can try to abuse the graveyard by dumping stuff into the graveyard with its effect and reviving things in white. I think this could be really fun. As a 2-drop, I like that. And it has some form of card advantage. Sacrifices those clues and foods are going to give you... The food's going to give you 3 life. The clue is going to give you a nice amount of a draw. And then you can explore afterwards. The other thing is when you sacrifice a clue or a food, you do not have to sacrifice the clue or food to its ability. So any other artifact ability that lets you sacrifice clues, or sacrifice an artifact, is going to allow you to sacrifice the clue or food and trigger its effect. Getting it big, you can hit people for games, and making sure you can clear out those lands on top of your deck so you don't draw into them. Sounds actually pretty nice. I like this. I don't think there's places for it in Legacy and Vintage. It is a 2-drop, so maybe? I don't know if there's any food decks there. Or anywhere that sacrificing clues and foods is a thing. I don't know too much about Legacy and Vintage. I haven't heard of that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Next up, we've got Atraxi Warden. Atraxi Warden is 4 and 2 white for a 6/6 creature alien eye. Fly. When Atraxi Warden enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target tapped creature. Okay, so 6-drop right off the bat, you get to remove something. That's really nice. I actually enjoy that. 6 for 6 with flying is great. Being able to take out one of your opponent's creatures that attacked is also great. Suspend is 5, 1 and a white. Suspend is one of the abilities being pushed in this in these decks. Rather than casting it from your hand, you may pay 1 and a white. Exile it with 5 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When the last is removed, cast it without paying its mana cost. It has haste. So, a lot of the cards in this, at least one of them, 1 or 2 of the decks, have abilities to remove those time counters. Removing the time counters allows you to get it up faster. But aside from that, the thing that you're looking for here, or looking at here, is that you really have this nice push to have a removal spell turn 5. Or I guess if it comes out if you exile turn 2, turn 7. Turn 7 you could remove something. Or a 6-drop for a 6 with a flying that takes something out. That's not bad. It sounds bad, but it's got something. Any deck that likes flyers, anything that's running high CMC big creatures, I would say you'd see play in that. Other than that, it's not the best card at all. You won't see this a lot, but don't be surprised if you did see it. If you are in a suspend deck that removes counters, you'll see it probably. It'll work fine. Not the best. Banish to another universe. 4 and a white for an enchantment. Affinity for historic permanents. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact, legendary, or saga permanent you control. So you could cast it for 1 white. When banished to another universe into the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until banished to another universe leaves the battlefield. This is great. In any historic deck, you're gonna see this. Artifact decks, saga decks, legendary creature decks. or just historic decks themselves, this is going to be there. A 1-drop enchantment that just removes a non-land permanent until it leaves. Insane. In fact, it's good enough that you might see it in Legacy and Vintage, to be fair. Again, with all the 0-drops in Legacy and Vintage, this is going to come down, like 0-drop artifacts, this is going to come down turn 1 or turn 2, and you're just going to remove whatever they decide to play. You're going to see Banishing Another Universe, Banishing Another Universe, Banishing Another Universe. It's insane. Any heavy artifact decks are going to be great there. And plus, since the sagas make it cheaper, Urza Saga is going to cause this to be one less. Legendary lands are going to cause this to be one less. So this is an insanely hype uncommon. Definitely don't sleep on it. Definitely keep your eye out for it. It's going to be annoying. This is a really good card. Barbara White. Okay, so Barbara White is 1 in a white for a 1/3 legendary creature human advisor with the following effects. History Teacher. Sagas you control have read ahead. As the saga enters the battlefield, choose a chapter and start with that many lore counters. Skip chapters, don't trigger. Doctor's Companion. You may have 2 commanders if the other is the Doctor. Okay, so I'm going to go into the Doctor's Companion in a second. Let's talk about Barbara White herself. Saga decks are going to love this. Being able to skip to the 3rd saga and just do the mega effect or the last saga and get the big effect. If the saga isn't building upon itself, like the last one's like, blow up all creatures. Cool, that's great. I don't have to wait 3 turns to get to that. If you want just the second one, any of these, this is going to be seen in every single saga deck out there. And in fact, with Urza Saga, I could almost see this being played in Legacy or Vintage. Playing this down on turn 1 with your ramp, going in for Urza Saga, triggering Urza Saga's last one, and just going to grab your 0-drop artifact and playing it. Or your 1-drop artifact and playing it. This allows you to get that Urza Saga to the last one right away. Really great as a 2-drop. I really enjoy this for Legacy and Vintage in that regard. Aside from that, as a Doctor Commander, let's talk about, you have 2 commanders if the other is the Doctor. Okay, there are 13 Doctors, plus I think it's the War Doctor and I think there's like 2 other Doctors. I want to say there's 14 total. I can double check that. I don't remember. I know there's 13 main Doctors, and I think there's like 2 or 3 other ones. Barbara can be a partner with any one of them, making anywhere from 2-color to 3-color decks. I love it. I love partners and stuff like that. There's, I think, 380 something combinations. Last time I checked. The one thing I'm not doing here is going to be talking about that. That's going to get its own video. I'm going to talk about which partner works with which best commander, and which doctors work with which partners, companions. So that's the concept there, but this is going to see play in Saga decks, and it's going to see play in Legacy and Vintage, just because of breaking Urza Saga there. Crack in Time. Crack in Time is 3 in a white for a enchantment. Vanishing 3. So Vanishing means when this enters the battlefield, it enters the battlefield with 3 time counters on it. At the beginning of the upkeep, remove a time counter from it. If the last is removed, sacrifice it. When Crack in Time enters the battlefield, and at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, exile target creature an opponent controls until Crack in Time leaves the field. So if you have a way to proliferate the Vanishing and just keep that going, you can... It enters F3, or it enters for 4 mana, you're going to exile a creature and opponent controls. Then, every time at your pre-combat main phase, so this is before you go to combat, after you draw, you're going to exile another creature. And then you're going to exile another creature until it leaves the field. So, and this is an opponent control, so you can't use this to flicker your stuff. But you're going to hit 1, 2, 3, 4. The beginning of your upkeep. So you're getting the 1 when it enters, then it'll go down to 2, then it goes down to 1, and then so you're going to get 3 gone. I don't like this card. I think the limitations on it isn't great. Where this will see play is any deck that can proliferate those time counters. This is great in an Atraxa deck. Just going to throw that out there. because you can keep putting the vanishing counters on it or the time counters on it, keeping it going, meaning you get a free exile every single turn. If you're in a deck that can proliferate constantly, run this card. Remove an exile every single turn is great. Yes, they can get rid of Kraken Time, bring their stuff back, but I think the upsides weigh down the downsides in that regard. Next, we've got Crisis of Conscience. 4 and 2 white for a sorcery. Choose one. Destroy all tokens. Destroy all non-land, non-token permanents. Okay, this is great. The reference here in game is that Duralex. Daleks. The Daleks are tokens in this game. A lot of them, like most of them, produce a bunch of tokens. So you can either blow up all of them, or you can blow up everything else, which is really interesting. I love that like choice. I love Doctor Who. I've never watched this stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have time to watch Doctor Who enough. But I love the world and the lore, and these cards really bring them to life. As a 6-drop removal spell, popping all the tokens is an interesting removal choice. If you're not running a token deck and you just wipe all your opponent's tokens, that's cool. Popping all non-land, non-token permanents is a fantastic thing for 6. This is a nuke. This is artifacts, enchantments, battles, which by the way, the battles will flip. Creatures, everything. Everything's just gone. The best thing about this though is in a token deck. In a token deck, this destroys everything that's not a token. It's a win con. You board wipe when you have enough tokens to swing out for game, or when you think you got it, they are out of their ramp, they're out of their interactions, their board presence is just gone. This is great in a token deck, and that is where I run this. A token deck. I think there's better board wipes otherwise, but within a token deck, kill all non-tokens. Day of Destiny, 3 and a white. For legendary enchantment, legendary creatures you control get +2/+2. Oh, guys, look, we get another absolutely fantastic card for legendary decks. If you're running a legendary deck, like a legendary creature deck, put it in there. A 4-drop to give all your creatures +2/+2. That's insane, guys. Welcome to legendaries. They push it. You have a legendary deck out there, 5 color, 1 color, whatever it is. Run this card in the legendary deck. That's where you're going to see this. I believe it's a reprint. Yeah. So, Day of Destiny is a reprint. I do love the art. But that's the first Doctor, I believe. Yeah, the first Doctor. I love the art. But yeah, this is, not the most needed reprint, I guess. But it is a really good card, and I would definitely run it in any other any deck that runs legendaries. That's Doctor Who. Okay, cool. Everybody lives. So 1 and a white for an instant. All creatures gain hexproof and indestructible. Until end of turn. Players gain hexproof until end of turn. Players can't lose life this turn, and players can't lose the game or win the game this turn. Okay. Everybody lives. Such a cool thing. So giving all creatures hexproof and indestructible says, no, you're not born. Giving all players hexproof until the turn says, no, you're not targeting us. Players can't lose this turn, and players can't lose life this turn, so you can't make them go to 0. And players can't lose the game or win the game this turn. This card's amazing. I don't know if I see this in Legacy and Vintage. I think they might test it there, just because if someone's going to win and all you need to do is have 2 mana to go, neither of us lose. This is, in a 1v1 scenario, I'm not going to lie, this is a 2-drop extra turn as well. Oh hey, you can do whatever you want to do on your turn. Just know, you can't target me, you can't destroy any of my creatures, or exile them. You can't win the game, nor can I lose the game, and also, I can't lose life. This is a 4 of. 2-drop extra turn spell. For the most part, this is gonna see Legacy and Vintage, but I'm saying that. I'm saying that right now. This is gonna see Legacy and Vintage play because it's an extra turn spell for 2. In fact, I could see this getting banned in one of those formats, or at least limited, because of how gross it is. Anyone underestimating this is insane. 2 mana to just say you can't do anything on your turn, basically. Right? And let alone Commander. In Commander, this is great. It stops people from blowing you out. Like, if you have a big lead, you can say no. If you're playing intermediate or high power and people are trying to win the game, you can go no. And in CEH, this is just a way to stop your opponents from winning. You know? They're going off, they're going to go for their combo. Everybody lives. But you can't win the game. Oh, and we can't lose the game. And we can't lose life, and you can't target our creatures. This card's insane. This is an insane card. Run it if you have it. If you're running white, you're going to love this. I think the least best place for it is Casual Commander, because, like, I guess in an Alpha Strike, it prevents people from killing you, which is nice. It can just stop people from winning, so this is great. This is insane. It's probably the best card review, best card out of this white card so far. Okay, so next one is Everything Comes to Dust. This is 7 and 3 white for a sorcery with Convoke, which means your creatures can tap to add 1 mana or color if it's thing. So if it's a white-green, you can choose for it to type for white or green. Exile all creatures except those that share a creature type with a creature that convoked this spell. All artifacts and all enchantments. In other words, if you use a human to convoke this, you can choose human, and none of the humans get exiled. If you tap like a human, an elf, a druid for this, you can choose one of those 3, and those ones stay. Except those that share a creature type with a creature. Oh no, so it's all of those. So any elf, druid, human, all those would stay alive. This is great in a tribal deck. This is like a tribal board wipe that you can convoke with, which I slap with that. That's going to see a play in any tribal deck. You don't want to do it in other ones because you're going to save too many things on your opponent's side, but I would run this board wipe in tribal decks. Definitely have you go wide tribal decks. Farewell, reprint, simple 4 and 2 white. It's just the doctor saying I don't want to go, which is so sad. Such a sad scene. You just choose which one or more, and exile all of them. This sees play in Casual Commander all the time. One of the best board wipes out there, being able to give that decision, that choice. A 4 Nox, 2 and a white for an enchantment. Vanishing 4, so again it'll come with 4 time counters on it. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, draw a card. So this is going to be a draw card at 3 for at least 3 turns. Because you'll lose that 4th turn, it'll get sacrificed and you won't have it anymore. So 3 to draw 3 over 3 turns is not a bad combo there. It's actually pretty decent. So again, in an Atraxa deck or any other deck that's proliferating, this is 3 to keep drawing cards without losing life. I like it there. Anywhere else, I mean, white's always wanting cards, so honestly in a white deck I'd run it. Not too bad. Let's see, Grasp of Fate, this is a reprint. Love the art, not gonna lie. And I suppose, if it's one last chance to say it, Rose Taylor. I love Grasp of Fate. Grasp of Fate's a great card. This card is seen play in any commander, any high power or lower commander deck. Even in CDH, this gets 3 things. 3 for 1 is such a good concept. Ian Chesterton, this is a legendary, so this is 2 and a white for a 2/3 legendary creature human scientist. Science teacher, each saga spell you cast has replicate. This replicate cost is equal to its mana cost. When you cast it, that saga, copy for each time you play its replicate cost, copies of the permanent into the battlefield tokens, Doctor's Companion. This is, again, going to see play in every single saga deck out there. Being able to play, when you cast a saga, being able to just go, oh, look, I'm going to pay 1 for this saga. This is a cheap saga. Let's pay 1, let's pay 1, let's pay 1. Let's get 4 of them. As a commander, again, I'll go into those later, but individually, you're going to be running sagas in this deck, and getting those replicate costs off your sagas is insane. This is a fantastic commander. It's fantastic in any saga deck. Run it in your saga decks. Being able to get multiple sagas is going to help you break the game. Especially if like any of those say draw on it. This is great. I love this card. Okay. Joe Grant. Joe Grant is 2 and a white for legendary for 3/2 legendary creature human soldier, and each historic card in your hand has cycling 2 and a white. Whenever you cycle a card, put a 1/1 counter on Joe Grant. Okay, this is another one that can get really big. I love being able to have a commander in my command zone that can win the game by cycling cards. Giving your historic cards cycling for 2 and a white is not great. That's like a really bad cycling rate. I wish it was like just 1 and a white. I could slap with that, but at 2 and a white, I'm really struggling saying that it's great. I guess because you do get the 1/1 counter on it, I understand. That being said, having that cycle on the deck, if you're running kind of a controlled deck, have a lot of historic cards in your deck, and you're just like, I don't need this one, let's pay 3. I don't need this one, let's pay 3. I could see that being decent. If you're in a cycling deck, even better, because there are cycling cards that reduce the cycling count. So in that case, I would say run this in a cycling deck. It's okay in a historic deck if you have ways to thirsty. If you have ways to reuse it, or if you have ways to reduce it, or you have the mana to constantly ditch the cards, if you have ways to grab stuff from your graveyard, it's not a bad card. Talking 1/1 counter deck, if you're running a historic deck that has a 1/1 counter sub-theme, this can be decent. Being able to double up those 1/1 counters is not a bad idea. I think it's better as a commander than in the 99, but I could see being placed in historic decks just as a way to draw cards, or at least filter cards. Out of Time, this is a reprint, 1 and 2 white for an enchantment. When Out of Time enters the battlefield, untap all creatures. Those creatures phase out until Out of Time leaves the battlefield. Put a time counter on Out of Time for each creature that phases at this time, with vanishing, so if there's 10 creatures, it gets 10 counters, and it'll be there for 10 turns. Absolutely insane board wipe. I love it because it's 3. It stays there forever. They're exiled, which is great. And if someone kills this, they phase in. They're actually not exiled. They're phased out. So they just don't exist. And you won't get ETBs or any of that, which is insane. You cannot mess with a lot of things. You just have to get rid of Out of Time, or wait the time. This card's fantastic. I absolutely love it in any deck that wants a board wipe. Very unique board wipe. Also love the design. I love the TARDISes and stuff because you're out of time. Sorry. Path to Exile. I'm not even going to pull this one up. Everyone knows what Path to Exile does. I love the art. It's the Doctor getting falling into Earth, or like some type of dream sequence. Yeah, run it if you're in white deck. Here we go. Here's another new one. Piri Brown. I want to say it's Piri Brown. 3 and a white for a 2/3 legendary creature human. The first historic spell you cast each turn has Convoke. This is a fantastic. That's all it is. Convoke. Having your creatures be able to help you cast your legend or your artifacts is great, especially if you're running an artifact creature deck. This commander screams artifact creature deck. Run a bunch of artifact creatures, tap them, make any of those, like a mirror battle sphere, creating the 4 artifact mirrors. Running this in a mirror deck is insane, but putting this as your commander and being able to tap all your artifact creatures you're casting for more artifact creatures the following turn, and it's actually you can do that the turn they come out. So this commander slaps for an artifact token, an artifact creature deck. That's where I see this seeing play. I don't see it much anywhere else. Either in an artifact creature deck or being ran as the commander. A Return to Dust. This is another reprint. I really like the art. It's cool. It's just 4 to exile an artifact or enchantment. If you cast during your main phase, you get to exile too. Okay, Romana 2. Romana 2 is, I don't know, I'm probably butchering that name. Romana the Second. 3 and a white for a legendary creature, Time Lord Scientist. 3/3. Vigilance. Pay 1, tap it. Create a tapped token that's a copy of target token that entered the battle for this turn. Doctor's Companion. Okay, this is cool. It doesn't do anything on ETB, so I don't love that, but when you make a token, being able to pay 1 to just make a copy of that token is great. This is like tall tokens. This is like, here's my 10/10, I'm going to get a second 10/10, okay? At the worst, here's my clue, let's get a second clue. Here's my treasure, let's get a second treasure for next turn. I don't love those. I think those are weak, not really worth running her in your deck. This is great for 2 things: big tokens and cloning your creatures. Oh, here's my cloning of this creature that has a great ETB. ETB effect, boom. Ramona in the second. 1 and tap it, boom. Let's make a second one of the clone of this creature. Hey, look, we get this other ETB effect, you know, cloning Solemn Simulacrum, so you can just keep getting those lands. That's where I see it being played in ETB clone deck. Clones specifically being the instant and sorcery clones, or the artifacts or creatures that make copies of creatures, not the creatures that come in as copies. That's where I see it being played. Rose Taylor. Rose is great. I love Rose. Rose is 2 and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature human. Rose Taylor gets +1/+1 for each time counter on it. Bad Wolf. When Rose Taylor attacks, put a time counter on it for each suspended card you own and each other permanent you control with a time counter on it. Doctor's Companion. This commander is only usable in a suspend deck. You need to have a suspend deck and a time counter deck, because it's going to get a 1/1 counter on. It's going to get +1/+1 for each time counter on it, and it's going to get those time counters fast. If you suspend like 10 cards really quickly and you swing with it, it's a 12/12. You're swinging with a 12/12. The first time, because each time you attack, you put a time counter on it for each suspend card. So if you have 5, you swing, it's a 7/7. Next turn, it's a 12/12. Next turn, it's a 17/17. Rose Taylor goes hard in the I'm brutal, I'm going to beat the crap out of the field. I love that. I don't see it being played anywhere other than the command zone. Or, I guess, in the deck of a suspend deck if you really want that creature that can really hit someone hard. Sarah Jane Smith is 1 and a white for a 2/1 legendary creature human detective. When you cast a historic spell, Investigate. This ability triggers only once each turn. If it didn't, it'd be broken, and I would have loved it. Investigating means you get a clue. Clues draw you a card by paying 2 and sacrificing it. But getting that historic thing, any deck that needs draw is great. I like this card as a commander because each turn you're just going to cast that historic spell. This is going to be your Artifacts, Lands, Sagas, and Sorcs again, or Artifacts, Lands, and Sagas again. Legendaries and Sagas. So any deck that needs that draw, a legendary human or legendary creature deck that lacks draw, this is going to be very good in there because your legendaries are going to keep giving you those clues at least each turn. That's a draw each turn. 2, if I had a card that just say pay 2, draw a card, activate this once each turn, I'd slap with that. I could slap with that decently. As a commander, I enjoy it. I think it's completely fine. You're casting your historic spells. You're going to get clues once each turn. Use those clues to draw cards if you need to. I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's bad. Historic decks, you might see it coming out just as that nice little draw. A lot of decks that missing white or missing blue, you might see it as that nice. Yeah, I get a clue each time. I'm going to slap it into my Oops All Legendary Saskia deck, which runs all legendary creatures. That sounds great as a draw engine. Swords to Plowshares, it's Swords to Plowshares. I love the art. So that's what it means to be a Doctor of War. Yeah, the first Doctor. Here we go. Here's another one. Tegan Jovanka. I'm butchering that name, I'm sorry. Tegan Jovanka. 2 and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature human. Braveheart. Whenever you attack, target attacking historic creature gets +1/+1 and gains indestructible until their turn. Again, legendary deck, artifact creature deck. I don't know many saga creatures. Slaps right there. Gets +1/+1 and indestructible until their turn. It's not the best. It's slow. It's weak, to be honest. Timing it with the doctor is what's cool. Giving your doctor who wants to attack +1/+1 and indestructible, so you don't have to worry about it dying. That's where this card comes in handy. Any of the doctors that say when this creature that want to attack or deal combat damage to an opponent, that's where this guy sees play. I don't see it much anywhere else, other than maybe historic deck, like artifact creature decks or legendary creature decks where they also have creatures that want to attack. I guess technically, if your commander you're running, whichever commander you're running, contains white, and you want to be able to attack with it freely without having to worry about dying, run this card in the deck. This is going to give you that, like, nice, hey, instead of a 4/4, my commander's a 5/5, and hey, guess what? It's indestructible, so you can block it, but I'm still going to get its attack trigger. Kind of cool there. That's actually kind of interesting, like a Timna Tana deck. Tana could get the +1/+1, giving it a 3/3, so you can get 3 tokens, and it's indestructible, so you don't have to worry about dying. So even if they block it with the trample, you'd still be able to survive whatever it does, choose which damage it goes. I like that in a Tana Timna deck, actually. That's interesting. Now that you think about it, actually, when you overthink, you get somewhere. Okay, now we got some sagas here. These are going to take a while. They always take a while to read. The Caves of Androzani. The Caves of Androzani. 3 and a white for a saga with 4 parts. Part 1, put 2 stun counters on each of up to 2 target tapped creatures. So you get to attack, you get to stun, you get to freeze 2 creatures that are already tapped, up to 2 creatures that are already tapped for 2 turns. 2 and 3. For each non-saga permanent, choose a counter on it. You may put an additional counter of that kind on that permanent. That's great. That's basically proliferate, but they wanted you not to break sagas. So it's proliferate for non-sagas, which means you can keep them stunned for longer. So you don't have to worry about those creatures coming in. And if you're running counters, you can just proliferate a bunch of stuff. And then 4, search your library for a doctor card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Okay, this is not going to see play in a lot of decks. That 4th sucks unless you're running a doctor in your deck. To be fair, the doctor could just be in your deck. You could be running a saga deck and you have a doctor in your deck. Cool, go grab the doctor. You're just running one of them? Cool. Grab it, put it in your hand. The doctors are all decent cards. You can run them in other decks. So maybe that runs, like if you're running this, put a doctor in your deck. Why not? But the other parts, stunning something, I don't care. Like, I guess the big bad creatures or anything that gets attack triggers, stun them, so they don't have to, they can't. Or you can get in easier. This is the part I like. Being able to proliferate twice is cool. I don't think it's great. Tutoring for the doctor, you need to win, is interesting, actually. I kind of like that. It's okay. The Girl in the Fireplace. 2 and a white, 3-part saga. Part 1, create a 1/1 white human noble creature token with vanishing 3 and prevent all damage that would be dealt to this creature. Okay, so you get a 1/1 that can't be dealt damage and disappears in 2 turns. Okay. Create a 2/2 white horse creature token with doctors you control have horsemanship. They brought horsemanship back. That's hilarious. Cool. I like that in commander decks that have doctors that want to attack, because horsemanship means you're not going to block it. 3. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to you, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to play this turn, time travel. The time travel doesn't, of course, it doesn't explain it on the card, nor does it explain it here. You can move all cards with any card with a time counter. You can add a time counter or remove a time counter from it. So I guess this keeps the noble around longer, right? So turn 1 you have it at 3, turn 2 you get the white. It's at 1 on the next turn. You hit someone, boom, it's back there. You're keeping it alive. Doesn't last forever. This part is what I like. This 2, getting that 2/2 that allows the horse, that allows your doctors to have horsemanship so they can keep attacking. That's what I like. I enjoy that. I think it's interesting. Not the best. And the Knight of the Doctor. 4 and 2 white for a 2-part saga. Destroy all creatures. Return target legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put your choice of a first strike, vigilance, or life counter on it. This is great. The Knight of the Doctor is great. 6 to blow up all creatures, not the best, but then being able to return your commander that you put in your graveyard back to the field, with most likely life link, so you can gain some life. Maybe first strike if you have attack triggers, and vigilance isn't bad if it's a big creature. I like this. I like this if you like your commander. board wiping and then getting your commander back next turn is pretty cool. Yeah, because that'll just be one rotation. I like that. The Pandorica. 2 and a white for a legendary artifact. You may choose not to untap the Pandorica during your untap phase step. 1 and a white, tap it. Untap another target non-land permanent, then it phases out. It cannot phase in for as long as the Pandorica remains tapped. When the Pandorica becomes untapped or leaves the battlefield, that permanent phases in. Activate only as a sorcerer. Okay, so this is a way to just get rid of a card for as long as you can get it. You can use this to protect your commander, just bring it back next turn, or you can use this as a way to just get rid of a problematic card for as long as it's problematic. They don't get reads these, because it phases out. That's very interesting. As a 3-drop that can just remove the biggest problem or protect your commander, I like the choices there. I enjoy that. I think it's completely fine. If you wanted to add it to any white deck, you'd see it pretty decently. I'm not going to say it's hitting any high-powered decks, though. Got a few more cards in this one. The War Games, 2 and 2 white for a 4-part saga. Part 1, each player creates 3 tapped 1/1 white warrior creature tokens. The tokens are goaded for as long as the War of the Games remains on the battlefield. So everyone's getting 3 1/1s and they have to attack. That's cool. I like that. Parts 2 and 3 put a 1/1 counter on each warrior creature. Oh, so they have to attack. And as they're attacking, they're going to get bigger. Turn 2, they're going to get bigger. Turn 3, they're going to get bigger. 1/1s, 2/2s, 3/3s. That's cool. If you're the last person attacking, you have the freest. So you don't have to attack. That guy has to attack. That guy has to attack. That guy has to attack. You're wide open to swing at someone. And then they all have to attack. So your creatures are going to be getting in for the most damage. If they're warriors, the only ones left. And then 4, you may exile a non-token creature you control. When you do, exile all warriors. Okay, so you can choose to just end the war. If you want to. Otherwise, you can keep it going. I like it. I think this is very flavorful. I don't think it's great. But for 4, knowing you're going to get this damage in, if you have ways to buff these tokens, they're also warriors, so I like them in a warrior deck. Najila sounds fun. Okay, The Wedding of River Song. 2 and a white for a sorcery. Draw 2 cards. Then you may exile a non-land card from your hand with a number of time counters on it equal to its mana value. Draw 2 cards, then you may exile a non-land card from your hand with a number of time counters on it equal to its mana value. Then target opponent does the same. Cards exiled this way that don't have suspend gain suspend time travel. Okay, so you draw 2, exile a card. If it's 5-drop, it gets 5 time counters on it. Gain suspend. You can remove a time counter with time travel. Then an opponent does the same. Draws 2 cards, suspends a card. Right? You can put since you time travel afterwards, you can make that 5-drop a 6 time counters on it. You get a free card eventually with it, and it's a draw 2. I like it in white decks. Casual white decks, if you have your opponent draw cards, it's completely fine. 2 more cards here. Trial of the Time Lord, 2 and 2 white for a 4-part saga. Parts 1, 2, and 3 exile target non-token creature an opponent controls until Trial of the Time Lord leaves the battlefield. Okay, so you're just removing non-token creatures, okay? Part 4, starting with you, each player votes for innocent or guilty. If guilty gets more votes, the owner of each card exiled with Trial of the Time Lords puts that card on the bottom of their library. That's great. So, like, you just, hey, do you guys want these cards back? No? Okay, cool, they're gone. I like that. That's a board wipe that's interesting. It's a board wipe with flavor. And then the Wedding Ring. Okay. I want to make an entire video about this card and the insanity that it is. The Wedding Ring is not a good card. It is an absolutely average card that is 100% white in its ability. 2 and a white, when the Wedding Ring into the battlefield, if it was cast, target opponent creates a token, that's a copy of it. When an opponent who controls an artifact named the Wedding Ring draws a card, during their turn, you draw a card. So you and that opponent who has the Wedding Ring, If they draw a card, you draw a card. If you draw a card, they draw a card. And whenever an opponent who controls an artifact in the Wedding Ring gains life during their turn, you gain that much life. So if they have a lifelink creature, you gain the life too. It's interesting. It's cool. I love it. It's totally unique in the form of the Wedding Ring. This card's expensive and stays expensive, especially this version right here, the full art, because people use it for proposal. It's a proposal card. People literally pull out the Wedding Ring and use it to propose to their significant other. It's super cute and unique. And before, the Crimson Vow one was interesting, but now with Doctor Who, if you're a fan of Doctor Who, you're gonna do this. And I absolutely love the concept. Totally go for it, guys. But that's the white cards. Oh, one last one. I wanted to end on the Wedding Ring. Should have done that. Wilfred Mott. 3 and a white for a 2/4 legendary creature human soldier. Let's end with Wilfred. Look to the stars. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on Wilfred Mott. Then look at the top X cards in your library, where X is the number of time counters on Wilfred Mott. You may put a non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest in the bottom of the library in your random order. I love this as a commander. I cannot wait to build it. 3 and a white at the beginning of your upkeep. So it does nothing on ETB, but at the beginning of your upkeep, you look at the top 1 card, and if it's 3 or less, onto the battlefield. Next turn, you look at the top 2, 3 or less. This, if your deck is, if you push your deck to be a majority, if not all 3 or less plus lands, he'll always hit. You can find your cards. You get free card each turn. It's insane card advantage for white. It's slow, sure. Give him protection. Play a control deck. You're gonna see some fun. I'd love to see if this works as a mono white CDH deck. I don't think it'll get there, but I'm definitely gonna try. With that said, we ended it with Wilfred. Next video you see will be my blue cards. Peace.